Hello and welcome to Crowd Church, coming to you live from Liverpool this Sunday night. My name is Matt Edmundson, and whether this is your first time or whether you've been part of our journey since the beginning, it's brilliant to be with you. We are a community of people figuring out what it means to follow Jesus in real life. Not the polished, perfect version, but the messy, genuine, brilliant reality of this whole thing called Christianity. So let me give you a little roadmap of what's going to be happening over the next hour. We'll have a talk, lasts about 20 minutes, looking at the topic of relationships, which is the section of our series, Becoming Whole, that we are looking at, exploring how Christ makes us whole across every domain of life. After the talk, we've got Conversation Streets. Oh yes, this is where we dig into what you've just heard and you get to be part of that discussion. So if you're with us live, jump into the comments, share your questions, your thoughts and your stories. And of course, if you're watching on catch up or listening to the podcast, then thanks for being part of the crowd too. Right, let's meet your hosts and let's get started.
Hello everybody and welcome to Crowd Church. My name's Sharon and I'm hosting tonight alongside the fabulous Anna.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here tonight. I'm excited.
So, Anna, what have we got going on tonight?
So tonight we're carrying on our series about wholeness, and we are talking about the subject of community tonight. So we've got Matt, your wonderful husband, talking to us in a minute about that. So I'm looking forward to getting into the subject actually. I feel like it's something you and Matt are quite good at, so I'm kind of excited to hear what he's got to say in a minute.
So after Matt's finished speaking, we're going to come back again and join Matt and have a conversation about what he's talked about. So it'd be great if you could join in the comments, put your questions, any comments, any of your own experiences. It's always great to hear from you. Can I just say I've got a really squeaky stool tonight, so if you hear weird noises, it's my stool, okay?
It's just the stool.
It really is. Okay, I think we will get straight into Matt's talk, so I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, well, great to be with you, Crowd Church. I get to do the talk tonight, so looking forward to this. We are talking, like you say, about community. So let me take you to Jerusalem about 50 days after Jesus' resurrection, okay? And we are going to get there. 3,000 people have just been baptized, okay? So this is the scene. There's a lot of people. The city's packed with Jews from all over the Roman Empire, different languages, different cultures, different economic backgrounds, and now they're all followers of this chap called Jesus, who was executed just a few weeks ago by the Romans. So what actually happened next? What did they do next? Well, the Bible tells us that they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. 4 things that happened. And these scriptures are going to come up on screen, aren't they, Dan? Do you remember that bit, Dan?
It's a Dan.
He's got the technical stuff these days. Excellent. Dan's trying to be ambidextrous tonight. Anyway, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. And everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. And every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Okay, great. So they devoted themselves to 4 things: the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, to breaking bread in homes with glad and sincere hearts, and to prayer. 4 things that they devoted themselves to. Okay, but I want to look at this again, not this time as a list, but more as a story. So let's picture what's going on here. Let's imagine it's a Tuesday afternoon, right? And a wealthy widow from Ethiopia is sitting in a small home in Jerusalem, sharing a meal with a struggling fisherman's family from Galilee. She has just gone and sold a piece of property and given half of the proceeds to cover the rent for the year. Not because she had to, not because anyone asked her to, but because, well, they're family now. But across the street is a tax collector, the kind of person everyone despises, if I'm honest with you. But he is teaching a group of teenagers about what Jesus said. His home is open, there's bread on the table, and anyone can come in. Down the road is a group of believers. They are praying for a sick child. Some of them are wealthy merchants. Some of them are day laborers. Some of them are slaves. But all of them are on their knees. They're all praying together because one of their tribe is hurting. Every single day, right? This is happening in homes all around Jerusalem. That they are open. Their homes are open. Resources are being shared. People are being taught. Prayers are being prayed. And meals are being eaten together. And none of this is done out of duty or because it's on some kind of to-do list. They are doing this, the Bible tells us, with glad and sincere hearts. They are genuinely loving it, which is just fantastic, right? Now, this is what Luke calls in the book of Acts fellowship. They devoted themselves to fellowship. The Greek word here, because, you know, we all love a little bit of Greek, don't we? The Greek word is koinonia, and it means so much more than just kind of hanging out together, which is maybe what we think fellowship means these days. It actually means a shared participation in divine life. It means becoming family with people who are nothing like you because you all share in something bigger than yourselves. And I think that is what church, especially this church, should be known for. So Jesus put it this way, to look at this in a slightly different way in John's Gospel. He said, so now I am giving you a new commandment, okay? Love each other just as I have loved you. You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. Great. So koinonia, right, is this love, this divine love in action. And right there, right at the sort of the dawn of church, at that point in time, that's what we see. We are seeing koinonia. And the world was seeing this sort of fellowship, this community, and how they loved each other and how this love was in action, even though they didn't really know each other that well. And everybody wanted in, and thousands were coming to Christ as a result. So this idea of koinonia is fascinating. So let me illustrate it to you. The importance of this with basic human biology and, well, if I'm honest with you, a very clean and simple analogy that really helps me to understand it. We know right back at the dawn of time, Genesis talks about how God breathed life into Adam's lung. Genesis 2:7, right? Talks about God breathing life into Adam. He breathed life into his lungs. And I want you to imagine, right, that this life, this Christian life, this divine life, life as God would have it, is based on a pair of lungs, okay? So the first lung is all about your relationship with God. It's you and it is God, right? You're breathing in grace. You're breathing in forgiveness and love from God through Christ. This lung is absolutely essential for living, right? We talk about this a lot in church, and quite rightly so. You know, your relationship with God. How's it going? How are you and God doing? And when it's strong, you feel like you're breathing the very life of God. And it's awesome and it's fantastic. And it just empowers your life in so many ways because it's how it's supposed to be. It's natural. It's just the way that God has it. But there is this second lung, and it is a little bit different, okay? This one isn't about your relationship with God. I think this lung is all about koinonia, this divine fellowship, this community with others. And it's the two things together, my relationship with God and my relationship with the community, that are equally essential to living the abundant life Jesus calls us to. Both lungs are meant to work together. That is the design, and it's also what God breathes into. God breathes into our relationship with us, and he also breathes into us through this community, through this fellowship. The problem with this, of course, there's quite a lot of problems with this, but the problem with this idea is we live, I think, in quite a hyper-individualistic world, don't we? We're living through a loneliness epidemic at the moment. Apparently, according to the stats, social isolation increases your mortality risk by 29%. Doesn't mean a whole great deal, but it just doesn't sound good. But it's actually the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, which I find the most extraordinary stat. We're more connected than ever. We've got Wi-Fi. We're beaming to you through the waves. We've got social media. We've got video calls. We've got FaceTime. Yet despite all of this, we're more isolated than we ever have been. And I think something is fundamentally broken in our society as a result. And I just wonder if that thinking, that worldview has also crept into the church a little bit. And I don't think as the church we've helped ourselves, because quite often we focus more on our individual relationship with God, my relationship with Christ. And I get it, right? Because it's important. I mean, it's crazy important. But I do wonder if by being so one-sided that we have learned to live with that metaphorical just one lung, right? Because it's my relationship with God. It's about me and Jesus. And as long as that's okay, then I think we're good. But it also might explain why it feels a little bit sometimes like we're gasping for air, feeling like it's hard to breathe. Even though, we do our daily devotions and we pray. One lung seems to be working, but the other might feel like it's collapsed a little bit, which is called, by the way, a pneumothorax. Just sort of throw that in there. A collapsed lung is a pneumothorax. And what happens is, in essence, when your lung collapses, it collapses or shrinks because something else is in the space where the lung should be, okay? But the lung can't work as it's supposed to because there's something there blocking it from expanding. So things like wrong attitudes, or maybe approaching church like a consumer, with that consumer mindset, past hurts, or even pressure to sort of perform, they can all stop that second lung expanding. But when we get rid of them, when we get rid of these things that cause us to have this, in effect, this compressed lung, things that cause us to not experience this koinonia, when we get rid of those and the lung expands, let me tell you, you feel like you can breathe properly again and life is functioning as it should. And I'm hoping this analogy makes sense because, like I say, it works really, really well for me. Both lungs are fundamental, right? We need both of them, our relationship with God and our relationship with each other. Our koinonia, to breathe in all that God has for us and to experience life as we should, we need both. So that leads you to an interesting question, I think. Why Christian community? What's wrong with gym classes or going to a book club? Honestly, nothing's wrong with them. Oh, I guess it depends on what book you're reading. But if you've got friends who show up for you, well, that's brilliant, right? That matters. That's important. And I think plenty of non-Christians and people outside the church have deep and meaningful friendships. But Christian koinonia, Christian community, I think has a very different foundation. And let me show you what I mean. Paul, when writing to the church at Ephesus, He put it like this. He said, Christ himself has brought peace to us. He united Jews and Gentiles into one people in his own body on the cross. He broke down the wall of hostility that separated us. That's a really interesting and powerful verse. Like God takes these two opposing people groups and creates, he sort of breaks down this dividing wall of hostility, which is totally what our society needs right now. Let's just break down these dividing walls of hostility, because there's a fair few up. And all those barriers that separate humans from each other, whether it's ethnicity or class or our past or our political opinions, whatever it is, the cross has demolished them. And as a result, there is now one new humanity, which is awesome. So the Ethiopian widow and the Galilean fisherman in my stories from earlier would, under normal circumstances, never share a meal. They're different countries, different social classes, different cultures, different everything. But Jesus adopted them both into the same family. And when the widow sold her property to help the fisherman, she wasn't doing it to earn God's favor, but she was doing it because she was living from the overflow of the favor she'd already been given. She was participating in the reality that Christ had created. The walls had come down and they were family now. That's koinonia. And it's not that people are better. It's not that Christians are better at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the foundation is different. And I think the foundation changes how the whole thing actually works. And before you think, Matt, this is great, but I feel like you might be missing something really obvious, you know, the big elephant in the room. Yes, churches fail at this all the time. You may have experienced that if you left church because it was toxic or judgmental or cliquey. I get it. I think that's real. I think churches have made, not all churches, but some churches definitely have made this idea of koinonia a place of performance or a place of judgment instead of grace and belonging. But that doesn't change the design. The design, I think, is still the two lungs. And I appreciate that many churches, you know, may have collapsed that second lung through legalism, exclusion, and control. But my observation is that people who leave the church rarely maintain a healthy spiritual life. It's just one of the things I've noticed over the years. Now, I'm not saying that you're weak for leaving or thinking about leaving, because churches can fail at being a safe place. So you want out. I've been there myself, right? I've talked about this at Crowd before. There was a time, more than one time, I wanted to leave church. One time I remember I was so angry. I felt rejected and hurt. And my instinct was to protect myself by withdrawing, right? Build walls, do life alone where it's safe. In fact, I remember telling God that I was leaving. Imagine that, telling God. It doesn't go down too well when you tell God things. Just want to say that. You know, it takes you a while to learn these lessons. But it's in that moment, what I felt was quite real. I didn't want to need anyone. I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to risk being hurt again. And independence then felt like strength. But if I'm honest, it also felt like personal protection, like that's what I had to do to protect me. And yes, I could have left, but I also realized that I would be taking the hurt with me. And is the next church actually going to be any better for me when I've not dealt with what's happening in my heart in this one? I don't know. I don't know your story. I don't know the answer. And it's definitely not me saying it's right or wrong. But what I do want you to hear, because it's what I needed to hear, right? The failure of churches around this idea of community does not invalidate God's design. It means, I think, we just need to fight for what koinonia or community is meant to be. And the good news and the bad news all rolled up in one is that is your responsibility and it's my responsibility to make sure that that happens. So what should it be like? How do you breathe when both of these lungs are functioning correctly? You know, when I grew up, and again, I mentioned this at Crowd before, but when I grew up, it was mainly in a single parent home. I saw my mum and my dad, saw my mum more than I saw my dad, but it was pretty much in a single parent home, right? I'd never really seen what a healthy family or good marriage looked like. But when I became a Christian, when I was 18, 19 years old, in effect, think about the lungs. My first lungs started to inflate. My relationship with God started to grow and it started to form. But also, people from my church started to do things like invite me round for Sunday dinner. And so my second lung started to inflate. Just families opening their homes, opening their doors to me. And I got to see what a healthy family looked like and what a good marriage looked like. No one taught me, no one sat me down and said, read these 14 scriptures. I did do that, don't get me wrong, and I did study the Bible, but just experiencing it and being among it and being in that community was life-changing. Both lungs were starting to work for me. I started to breathe this divine life, and God started to transform my life. Not just from reading scripture, but from hanging out with people who could explain what the scripture meant and doing life with them. So critical. A few years later, I had a significant accident when I was in the hospital for 5 days. And we had you corrected me earlier, what was it, a 2 and a bit year, something like that. Son, I don't know, Josh was a few years old. And Zach had just been born. We had a newborn, a few weeks old. And the community sort of sprang into action and started bringing around food and even gave us money, bringing that sort of financial assistance because, I ran my own business and it was going to have an impact. They were, in effect, breathing for us. This year, Sharon got diagnosed with cancer, something, again, we've talked about on Crowd. And the community, again, got around us, not with grand gestures necessarily, but with lots of small things which were amazing, prayers and text messages and flowers and phone calls, just showing up. Both lungs were strong and working, and God gave us the miracles that we needed. And it's not just, you don't have to wait for the big life events either, do you? For the church family to show up. It's also what happens on Monday, Tuesday, all the way through Sunday, right? It's sending encouraging text messages. It's asking for prayer when you need it. It's dropping by a friend's house just to say hi with no agenda. It's inviting people for a meal and being okay when an extra 5 or 6 or 10 or however many show up, right? Koinonia is opening your home. And there will be, I'm guessing, more than likely, food involved when you do it, because there's something significant about food and meals in Scripture, and an open table really matters. But just to be clear, Koinonia is not a checklist. I didn't want to give you a checklist of things that you have to do. It's not a to-do list, right? It's actually a lifestyle. It should be part of everyday life. The way you do it, the way I would do Koinonia is going to be different because we're different personalities with different things going on. But it should be part of us, just like breathing. It should be connected to everything. And I think this is actually what makes Koinonia audaciously different, which I think is such a great phrase. It makes it audaciously different. The early church grew explosively, not because it had better church programs. They grew because when the plagues hit, the Christians stayed and cared for the sick, including the non-Christians, whilst everyone else fled. So let me close by telling you what I would love to see here at Crowd Church, how I would love to see Koinonia working, because it's one of the big questions in my head, right? How do we do this at Crowd? We, as you know, if you've been around, are an online church, which makes community in some respects a little bit trickier. It just means we have to think a little bit differently. It's not so easy to say, oh, just, come on round for a meal the same way. It's not straightforward. If you're feeling unwell, for me to bring a stew or something round when you live in another country in a different time zone. And I get it, right? It's just the way it is with digital, but we still need Koinonia. We still need that second lung. You need it, I need it, we all need it. And so here's what I think. Here's what I'm asking you to think about, especially if you're a regular to Crowd. why not invite 2 or 3 people to watch Crowd with you? So next time you're out with your mates, at the pub, the gym, wherever, just say to them, listen, I watch this online church thing. Usually, depending on who's speaking, it's pretty interesting. Want to come over Sunday evening? I'll make some burgers. We can watch it together and see what you think, right? It's just a simple thing. But make it about the meal, about hanging out, not the live stream. Keep it low pressure. And if they say, I don't know, what's it all about? Just answer them honestly. Just, some guys in Liverpool talking about life and faith, and some of it really resonates, and it might be fun to just watch it and discuss it. That's it. That's it, right? You're not selling anything. You're just inviting someone into your home, because I can't invite them necessarily into this building, but you can invite them into your home, and you're starting to explore maybe some of the things of God together. Give yourself permission to mess up. I would, because it's not going to go right all the time. If it's awkward, that's fine. If you don't know the answer to any questions they raise, especially if they're not Christians coming around to your house, just say, I don't know. What do you think? You're not teaching here. You're not needing to be some kind of crazy apologist. You're just sharing a meal. You're building koinonia. You're opening your home. And I guarantee you that will speak louder than any sermon I or the team may or may not give that Sunday. I reckon you should invite Christians and non-Christians, sorted people and messy people, believers and skeptics. Don't make it perfect. All you got to do is just make it happen, right? And I think if you see yourself as an important part of this community, this church community, because you're not a consumer, you are a lung in the body, just like everybody else. You bring something every week, whether it's comments in the YouTube, whether it's prayers, whether it's the messages you send during the week because you've caught it on catch up, whatever it is, right? We want to make the community aspect a bigger part of what we're doing here at Crowd. And so one of the ways that we started to do that is at the end of the service, we do this thing on Google Meets. Come meet us on Google Meets. We're going to do the same tonight. We're going to put the link in the comments. Maybe Dan, you could put it in now. go.crowd.church/meet, MEET. If you're live, if you're listening on catch up, that link won't work. It only works like a very specific time on a Sunday. But if you're up for it, come say how's it. Come hang out with us. Come do community with us. It'll be great to meet you. It really, really would. And we're going to start pushing that more and more. But what are your ideas? We would love to hear from you. How can we as church do community well? How do we do koinonia well, especially in the digital space? Because let me tell you, these sort of little groups of people meeting in houses, praying for loads of those, these sort of hybrid communities. And if I'm honest with you, I care more about that than the perfect social media feed. Because I think community is real. I think koinonia is real. It's where God knits us together. It's where we grow. It's where we transform. It's where I think we become family. And that's what will win people over. People outside the church, I genuinely think, love how the church on the whole does community, especially when we do it right. And I think it's what's going to distinguish Christianity in the world going forward, where everyone seems to just be giving you the benefit of their opinion, right? That's your opinion, that's awesome. Invite me around for a meal and let's see what happens. Preaching is a good thing. They were devoted to the apostles' teaching. That's what it said in Acts. But it's only one part of it. And koinonia is what I would love for Crowd Church to be known for. So like I say, we're going to be working on that over the coming months. But that's it from me. I'm going to go get a drink of water, and I'm going to hand back to these beautiful ladies here.
Well, thank you for that. And thanks to everybody who's commented. I've enjoyed seeing the comments and some of people's experiences. Just to start us off, I want to pick up on one comment from Heather, who's saying, at 63, I started to feel I needed more. I needed connection, something I never admitted to ever needing. And I think that's a really interesting point, in that actually we've all got that need, haven't we? It's a legitimate need for connection, and if we don't find it in our God-given way, we will tend to try and find it in ways that are not God-given. Okay, Anna, so is there anything in particular that you'd like to start us off with?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in that talk. One thing that really struck me as Matt was talking was just how it's difficult in our culture, isn't it, to do community well. I think, generally because we live, it's ironic because we're digital now, but because we live in a digital age, we're not necessarily as deeply connected as like perhaps the early church were. When you look at, 2,000 years ago, like at the beginning of the church and in Jesus's days, like life was very different, and they had this idea of kind of extended households that lived together. So you'd have large families. Wasn't much birth control going on back there, I don't think. And so you'd have these big families, you'd have extended families, grandparents, different generations, all under one roof. And I think our modern world, the way we are, we're like digitally connected, but actually physically quite separate, aren't we? And we tend to like live as either single people or people with a couple of friends, or maybe in our very nuclear families, like, parent and children or child. And it just makes me think we have to work quite hard at this now, because it's not something that our culture's necessarily good at or set up to do well. I think it takes some thinking about how do we do community. And I think you guys do it really well, actually. Just getting people around the meal table, having people over, opening your home lots. I think that's really good, and it's something me and my husband Andy try to do as well. But I don't think it's easy, and I think there's a lot of loneliness, and I think it's probably got harder since COVID. I mean, if you're on the feed, let us know what you think as well. But I think it's challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's picking up on whole culture. It's that with our Christian faith, it's meant to be obviously our relationship with God first, and that flowing out to affect the way we live rather than being moulded by the culture. But of course, we do live within our culture, so it's working out that. So Anna, what sort of things do you do to actually try to live that out in your life?
I think that's a good question. I think we try and have people over quite a lot. We come to a church service, but I mean, actually more important for me is being part of a small group of Christians. I have a group of about 5 or 6 girlfriends, and we meet together and pray once every few weeks together and just chat about life over a cup of coffee and pray for each other and just talk about life, really, and share life together and the ups and downs. And for me, that's actually more important than going to a church service. I mean, we do quite often go to a church service as well. We take our little boy, but I think those kind of connection points where it goes a bit deeper is really important for me. I feel like quite often it's easy to settle for lots of connections, like knowing lots of people, but quite surface level. Like I know a lot of people, like, people you say hi to in the street, your neighbours, the, work colleagues, but you can know a lot of people quite superficially, can't you? Or chat to a lot of people digitally online, like you see them on Facebook, but you don't really see them in real life that often, or like you say, Matt, in the gym, and I think those connections are great, but for me, the challenge is always how do you take some relationships deeper and get that depth, as well as just not like just a breadth of how many people can you know, but actually a depth of, are there a few key people in your life that know you really well? And I think we all need that, because that's really what anchors you. And I found that to be true when I was single, and I still find it to be true now that I'm married. For me, that's really key.
Yeah, I think there are different levels of relationship, aren't there? So there are those like core groups that you want to have those deeper relationships with, and you can't have those with everybody because they take time, they take effort, and also they take trust. And not everyone is appropriate to have that with. But then you've got kind of different levels going out from that, people that you might know reasonably well, or people that are acquaintances. But I think with the thing with the Christian faith as well, it's always about inviting other people into that. Ephesians 1 talks about how when we make that decision to accept Jesus in our life, that we become adopted in his family. So we then automatically become part of a family. But just like any family, that takes a bit of working out.
And I think that's come across really clearly in the, just even a bit of chat that I've seen while we were listening to Matt's talk. A couple of people have said that they've struggled to connect in church, or they found somewhere to connect now, but it's not been easy and it's hard to find that right fit. And I think that's okay. I think that's why it's great there's the breadth of different church communities. Like, not every church looks the same, and not every church space or faith space will be the right fit. And I think you just need to find those few people, don't you? Or that small church community that works for you. And that's why it's great. We've got so many different expressions of how to do church, and it's great if people are watching this and you're thinking, well, this is my main connection right now, that this is a great place to start as well. And like you say, Matt, it would be great to hear if people have got ideas of how we make this connection deeper as well with you. So yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We're kind of sort of talking on two levels here in a sense. We're talking about the community, with the Christian community within those that we physically see, but then also, because we are a digital church, how does that translate into the digital space? So we've got those kind of two things going on at the same time. And in terms of physically the people that you see, just amongst people that you know, what other ways have you seen where people are doing this, maybe in a different way to you? Putting you on the spot a bit here.
Yeah, you are. I mean, some people are great at having lodges or just having people over for food. This doesn't fit my life stage now because I've got a little boy, but when I was younger and I was single, I lived in a shared house with 8 other adults. There was like 9 of us in this big shared house. And we built community as 8 single adults in my 20s. And I think being single for a long time in your 20s could be quite a lonely stage of life, but it never felt lonely because there was always people around. And and we used to have lots of social stuff there. And we just built, not everyone was there all the time, but we ate together quite often. And, everyone was working, had different sort of patterns of when they were coming and going, but we built a sense of community and kind of drew other people into it as well. And so, I think you can do it very intentionally like that as well if you've got time. And sometimes you can think, oh, well, I'm not part of family, it's harder for me. But actually, I found if you can find a few other people who are on the same page, it's a great, I've seen people do community really well where they're just like, let's share our lives. Yeah.
I think for us, we've said before, since we were married for about 10 months, we've had lodges almost all of our married life. And I think, is it 27 years we've been married now? So that's
27 beautiful.
Making yourself sound old.
Very good.
Yeah.
Best years of my life.
Yeah.
Fact.
So we've had some lodges that have come and gone. Some have stuck with us, not necessarily physically in the house, but have stayed connected. And we've got a WhatsApp group now of all of those who've kind of stayed connected. Some have not actually ever lived with us, but many people have keys or come and help themselves to our food in our fridge, and sometimes the clothes in our wardrobe, which is quite amusing, seeing different people like, doesn't that belong? No. Yeah. And there are many fabulous things to that. That's definitely not for everybody. And I think the thing about that is, with any of these things, it's about not comparing yourselves, isn't it? And Matt at the beginning mentioned that this is just not just another thing to do or something on the list, but it's to come out of that heart place of knowing God who's adopted us into his family, and like just letting that love flow out of us and just saying to him, God, how can I do this in my life, in who you've made me as a character, and my life stage, the size of my house or not, maybe you've just got a room, but it's possible for every single person, no matter what stage you're in, or whether you're an extrovert or an introvert. I'm actually an introvert, so I was saying to Anna earlier, there was one year when I'd done far too many social things in December, and January I was like, I just need to close the house for a week. So we actually closed our house to all visitors for a week and just had those that lived there. And it was like, oh, I really needed that. But yeah,
Yeah, that's really important to say though, actually, Sharon, isn't it? Like, I know we're sort of laughing about it, but it's actually really important to know yourself, know your own boundaries, whether you're an introvert, extrovert, what energizes you. Like, we're not saying just keep hanging out with people to the point that you're burnt out and, you've got nothing left for yourself. Or, yeah, it's finding what works for you, isn't it? And that's quite a personal thing, and we're all designed a bit different. So it's like, yeah, build community where you are in the way that works for you, I think is the key.
I think it's really important to say that quite often people don't know how to go about doing that, right? And so the default then is to, well, I'm going to go to the church service and I'm going to wait for somebody to invite me for something, right? So can you invite me out? Can you do this? And when no one does, I think one of the loneliest places to be is actually in a church where no one's talking to you, because your expectation is somebody should be talking to me. And I think this is where we get down to the nitty gritty of it, in terms of actually in situations like this, rather than waiting for somebody to do something, you can do it, right? You can go off and you can start it yourself. And it can be just the simplest thing. It does not have to be complicated. I think, again, I've talked about this. I'm sorry for repeating stories, but we do this thing in our house. Say we, sometimes you get involved, sometimes you don't. But if Liverpool are playing, right, and they're showing it on TV, I've got a big 75-inch TV. It's a long story. I won't tell you why I've got a 75-inch TV, but I've got a 75-inch TV in the house. And so there's a bunch of guys who love to watch football, right? And we're all in a WhatsApp group. And so they're all Liverpool fans. I'm just like, right, I'm showing the game, come round. Now, occasionally I'll do food, not all the time. Most of the time, the guys just bring crisps and Maltesers and all kinds of stuff, which you just would not want to feed your kids. But it's great for a football match. And it's really simple and it's really easy. And 90% of the time, the conversation is just about football, but 10% of it isn't. And that's a really good ratio, I think, because it doesn't always, when you get together with people, it doesn't always have to be deep and intense. And, we're going to dive into what God has said to you the last 3 days. It can just be hanging out. But that would not be happening if I didn't start that on WhatsApp and do that, right? And you might go, well, that's easy for you, Matt. You're you. And I'm like, you still got to get out there and do it, right? And I think be intentional, being consistent, don't make it a big deal, but just doing something, even inviting people around to watch crowd at your house, doesn't have to be a big deal. Just get a slice of cake, and a beer or whatever. And I think you can really make a difference, right?
Funny story about the football group is that there was one time the football was on and we were actually going to be away somewhere, I can't remember, but our daughter was going to be in. So Matt was like, oh, could you let the guys in? And these are not strangers, these are people we trust. And she was like, sure, but they need to bring me like treats. Half joking, maybe not.
She was not joking.
Okay, she wasn't joking.
Yeah.
And they actually did bring her treats. And I think one person turned up and didn't have any and then felt guilty. So at half time went down the shop and got her some. So works out.
Yeah, that's brilliant. But the other thing I was going to say is I think it's really, it's good to like kind of just start small as well. Like Matt was saying, like if there isn't a community or don't feel like anyone's like reaching out to you, be that person. Like I think sometimes communities that I'm part of, and these aren't just necessarily faith ones, but the principle's the same, but it's like just grown from getting to just asking one or two school mums, like, do you want to hang out and go for a coffee? Like, it's not big, and it doesn't matter if you don't really click and it doesn't go anywhere, but you might just find the start of connection that draws, or a small group of people that draw more people in. Like, I have a friend who did that with a book club. She was just like, I really love books, and she invited me and a couple of other friends to do it, and it's just grown into like a really vibrant group of women. And we meet every 6 weeks and we read books and we have a WhatsApp group, and they're just fab women, and we have like a digital space and we have an in-person space. But yeah, I just think sometimes it's just taking that risk, and it won't always work out. And I think we sort of need to take the pressure off a bit and be like, it's all right. Like, not everybody that you kind of invite for a coffee or say, do you want to catch up, or do you want to go for a bit of food, or do you just want to do a play date with the kids, or whatever it is? Like, they don't all have to be lifelong friendships, but actually sometimes that might spark. But I think it would just take the pressure off it as well. And it's like, it doesn't have to be everything, but sometimes those things just grow out of nowhere when you take that risk. And I think we can be quite scared, like of rejection. I think I'm like this sometimes, like, oh, I assume everyone's busy, I assume no one's got time, assume they've already got friends, they don't want to do it. But actually most of the time when I say, oh, do you want to do this, or do you want to go there, or do you want to get a coffee? Most of the time, people are delighted and say yes, and that's been my experience. And so I just encourage people to be a bit brave with it as well.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Such a good point. I think with the football, if I use that as an example, it's a bunch of guys. You don't want to go in that room afterwards because it stinks, right? But it's just a bunch of guys. Now, I have to do two things at that game, right? Well, three things, I suppose. One, I have to be intentionally invite people around. Two, I have to model vulnerability. If I didn't talk about anything that was going on in my life, nobody else would, right? So you've got to model that. That doesn't mean as soon as people walk in, oh, my life's rubbish, help me. That's not what I'm saying. But just being honest and vulnerable where it makes sense, I think, changes the dynamic massively. And the third thing, and this is such an important thing, when you see people, we're going to talk a little bit about this next week. I was planning next week's talk this afternoon, and this is all fresh in my head. Just asking somebody, how are you doing? But actually wanting to know the answer to that question, that's a really, really important thing to be able to do in these communities. So when they go, how you doing, mate? Oh, I'm all right. It's a standard answer in the UK. You go, no, how are you doing? How are you doing? And wanting to hear the answer, I think, changes the dynamic massively. And that's as complicated as it needs to be, right? Now, I think the other thing to say here, at Crowd, we currently run communities on a Wednesday night where you can join us either on Zoom if you're outside of Liverpool, or you can come around to our house where we run them if you're in person. We have one community which you run, which is a ladies only. We've got another community which is like a mixed community, which is just super, super cool. And so if you want to get involved in those things, you're more than welcome to come join us. Sharon runs one, I run the other. And then, like I say, after these services, we do the come meet us on Google Meet. So there's also times to come interact with us if nothing else is going on. Sorry, thought I'd do a quick plug. You girls go in.
Yeah, and we can also create more communities if we've got loads of people that are interested, because obviously it gets to a certain size, and then especially online, it's really difficult if you've got too big a group for everyone to connect. So yeah, we can create stuff.
But I also think Matt touched on this, but if people have other ideas, if you're listening to it and like, oh, wish I do that, or try this, or that kind of, if you've got any ideas at all about how we can do this better or do something that would fit you better, let us know, because we'd love to hear. We're like really open to ideas.
Yeah, and we have also in the past connected people to local churches so they could actually physically, go and be with people as well, which I do think there is a lot to be said for being able to physically gather with people, even though we are a digital church.
People that get involved with Crowd, not everybody, but quite a few of the people that get involved with Crowd do both. Right, you see it in the comments tonight. Like, I go to this church community, I come to this one, this is kind of cool. I appreciate for some people, actually, online community is the only community they can get, and that's fine too. We've connected loads of people to in-person church, local in-person church around the country, some around the world actually, and it's great just to hear their stories. So yeah, come get involved. I think would be the thing there with the communities after the church service. In the comments, love you guys commenting. It's great. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want to pick up again on the whole, just listening to the Holy Spirit, and it's an adventure, I think, with God, just to be able to go, okay, God, this is where I'm at, this is how I'm feeling about it. What do you want to show me, and what do you want me to do? And like just allowing the Holy Spirit to lead us to people, to lead us to ideas, because after all, He knows everything, and He knows. Yeah, He just knows.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. And I'd say if you're struggling or you've had difficult experiences in the past with relationships, like in or outside of the church, if you're like, I kind of hear what you're saying, but I don't know where to begin, or this hasn't worked out in the past for me. I just think a great place to start is just praying, like, God, I want a few Christians that I can connect with, either in my real life or online, and just start asking him about it. Like, how do I go about this? Could you just bring some people into my life? I think God loves that prayer. I think, like as Matt shared at the start of your talk, this is it's so kind of central to the Christian faith that I think God's delighted by that request, like when we're like, God, I want to be more connected with other people. Help me to do that. Help me find those people. That is a great place to start.
And I think it helps to prevent us from getting into that tick list mentality of, oh, I'm meant to be doing all these things. Because then we get just into that, what's the word? Where it's not gracious, but it becomes that tick list and, oh, I have to. And we can lose all the joy out of it. But if we're just going, okay, Holy Spirit, what do you want to say to me today? Who do you want me to connect with today? It becomes more of an adventure and more of a joy, and it's not got that heaviness about it. And I said before about not comparing. It's like, I think when we compare as well, like, oh, that person's doing this, this and this, but I can't do that. You don't have to do that. You can be you with God inside you and do whatever he's leading to you to do at that point without comparing to anybody else. Yeah, okay. I was just going to say, has anyone got anything else to say? I think I just suddenly run out of all my comments.
I feel like we've just kind of exhausted this subject, haven't we, really?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
No,
it's been good.
Scratching the surface.
Yeah. Okay, so
So
Matt could
Matt's
go on.
always got more to say, though. That's the thing.
Way too much. That's Matt's fundamental problem.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for everybody who's commented today. Like we said, we are going to meet now. Is it Google Meets, you said? So do try and connect with us there. Matt, what are you talking about next week? We've got you again, haven't we? The Delight.
We have, and can I just say, it's really unusual when my wife calls me by my first name.
I know.
What does she normally call you, or should we not ask?
Say it live on air.
No, it's not. We normally just call each other babe. So if we use our actual names, it always feels a bit strange.
It does when you're doing a live stream, but so when you call me Matt, I'm like, am I in trouble? But I get why you have to do it when we're live on air. It's appropriate. It's appropriate. So next week we are looking at this topic of spiritual fathers and spiritual mothers, which sounds a bit odd, and I get it. But there's a scripture where Paul, when he's writing to the Corinthians, says, you've got 10,000 guides in Christ, but what you really need is a father, a spiritual father. So we're going to get into what that means, what it means for us as church, because the context of all of this is wholeness. We're looking at how to have whole relationships. So today we've looked at community. We're going to look a little bit at this sort of spiritual father side of things next week, which kind of carries on a little bit from what Mark was talking about with discipleship last week. So we're going to get into that, which I'm really excited about. It's one of my fave topics. This is one of my fave. They're all my fave topics.
I thought you were going to launch into the whole thing then.
Yeah,
it's like, you're going to save anything for next week. But any parting thoughts, Anna?
No, I don't think so. Just, start where you are and just have a go, I think. That's my advice.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. And we hope to see you either just after the meeting, after the live stream, or in one of the groups midweek, or maybe next week. So, yeah, goodbye. Thanks for joining us.